Welcome back to Seasons, a devotional here on YouTube based on my book by the same title. And today we're going to talk about the price we quite often have to pay and the blessings that we receive in return when we walk in obedience. I'm going to date myself when I mention the dates, but the dates are important to the story, so here it goes. In December of 1983, I had just completed the training phase of an advanced course I was taking in Youth with a Mission. I was required to do a practicum of at least 3 to 6 months to follow up on the lecture phase. When I looked over the list of opportunities, I was drawn to one that was in Los Angeles, California. There was a lot of reasons why I was attracted to that one, but one of the major ones is that the Summer Olympics would take place in 1984 in Los Angeles. I had heard about how rewarding it was to be part of an international outreach that involved teams from all around the world gathering together to spread the gospel. Well, God had other plans. Even though I had the money in the bank to go to California, and even though all of my visa and paperwork were already done, I was approached by the leadership of my school to consider going to Thailand to work with Cambodian refugees along the Thai-Cambodia border. I had past experience working with special needs kids, and I think that's why Youth with a Mission asked me if I would go to Thailand. With a heavy heart, I said I would pray, and when I prayed, I felt God say that He wanted me to be in Thailand. I was stepping out in complete obedience to the Lord, but I had no emotional tug at all to the Cambodian people or to Thailand or to Asia at that point. And so I asked the Lord if He would grant me the mercy of some sort of confirmation, a Bible verse, a dream, a word spoken by another person, whatever. Shortly after, one morning during my regular quiet time, I was drawn to this obscure Bible verse, 1 Samuel 17:17 to 18. And Jesse said to David, "Take for your brothers this parched grain and these loaves and carry them quickly to the camp of your brothers, and take these cheeses to the commander of their 1,000. See if your brothers are well, and bring some token from them." What sort of scripture was that? I asked, but I put it down in my prayer journal like a good YWAMer. Another morning in prayer, a picture of an older Asian woman flashed in my mind, and it was an instant flash. She stood just outside a simple hut, wearing a faded saffron-colored blouse and a deep purple sarong. She carried something on her head, and that something was wrapped up in a cloth woven in a plaid design of rich purple, blue, and reds. What sort of picture was that? I didn't recognize the ethnic group. I had no idea. And I was still pouting over the fact that I was missing the party in Los Angeles, even as I wrote to the Thai base and told them that I was on my way. A fellow YWAMer picked me up from the airport in Bangkok, and if you've never experienced Bangkok traffic, then you won't understand why a 5-mile trip took us over 1 hour. My driver grilled me as we drove along the highway to pass the time. "Where are you from?" I said I was from Calgary, Alberta. His eyebrows shot up. "You don't happen to know Brenda C., do you?" It was my turn for my eyebrows to shoot up. Yes, indeed. I knew her well. She was one of my dearest friends. We had left Calgary at exactly the same time to join Youth with a Mission. She headed over to Asia, and I headed west. With all the different outreaches and schools and helping out at different YWAM bases, it wasn't uncommon for us to lose track of each other. This was in the days before there was email and before there were cell phones. He paused and then he laughed. She'll be working in the same refugee camp as you are. Oh, and by the way, she'll be living right across the street from you in town. I can tell you that she'll really be happy to see you because she's been homesick. Suddenly, that verse from Samuel made sense. God was calling me to carry refreshment to my sister, and we would actually be working in a nearby refugee camp together. A whisper of a faint feeling of positive emotion kind of wavered in my heart at the moment, but I must admit, even at that point, I was still going on. I'm just doing this like a good YWAMer because God told me to. A few days later, we drove into the refugee camp after I had had orientation. I glanced around the world that I would be working in for a year. Bamboo huts, dirt roads, open sewage, women wandering around in bright colored blouses tucked into sarongs, men on bicycles, and multitudes of children running alongside our truck. It all overwhelmed my senses. Then I saw her. Yes, that very woman I saw in the flash of a vision 2 months earlier. She was wearing the same faded saffron-colored blouse and the same deep purple sarong. She carried something on her head wrapped in that purple, blue, and red plaid cloth I had seen in the vision. I was overwhelmed with gratitude to the Lord, for I knew at that moment my step of obedience and sacrifice indeed had a purpose. I immediately felt that emotional confirmation that I had been seeking for 2 months prior. Coincidentally, if there is such a thing, after my return from Cambodia, I was back in Calgary for a short while, right when the movie The Killing Fields came out. The movie exposed the horrors suffered by the Cambodian people under the ruthless Khmer Rouge. But the very last scenes of that movie had been filmed in my camp a few weeks after I had actually arrived in the camp. Actual refugees from the camp served as extras, and just who was one of those extras, you might ask? You guessed it. The same woman from my vision wandered across the screen wearing the same outfit and carrying the same load on her head. My cousin had to firmly put his hand on my shoulder to keep me down in my seat because I just wanted to shout out, "My people!" Perhaps, like me, you had a real heart desire to do something that you felt God asked you to set aside so you could follow God's plan. Be reassured that as you stepped out in obedience, God ran to meet you in that place of obedience. But if, like me, you are finding it challenging to find an emotional connection to embrace the new task that God has set before you, ask the Lord to transplant His heart for the people or the region or the new job or whatever that He has asked you to take. When you see your new surroundings through God's eyes of love, you can't help but start to feel His love grow inside of you. If you're wondering, why did God lead me here? Ask Him, and He'll show you why He chose you specifically to be His ambassador in that situation. He will give you a strategy to be His hands, His feet, and His voice in the place that He has planted you, if you just ask.